You know what's worse than ghost pirates, space tyrants and goats? Politicians. Good job that the Black Hawk is here to sort them out then, isn't it? Hello and welcome to YakWaxLips. My name is Michael, your point and click adventurer, and today we're plotting a review of The Adventures of the Black Hawk from Croquetina Asesina Studios. Before I unmask the game though, I make loads of videos about point and click adventure games, so if you love them too, please like this video, subscribe for more, and turn on the bell. The Adventures of the Black Hawk looks like, plays like, sounds like, and probably smells like a pixel art adventure from the 90s. And it's fully intended to be just that. The devs from the start unapologetically said that their adventure will be as close to the 90s games as possible, for good or bad. And there is a heap of good, but also a heap of bad too. We play as Pierre de Saint-Cove. In his day job, he's a noble aristocrat, being all aristocratical, but when there is danger and corruption rife, he whips on his mask, jumps on his trusty steed, and becomes the legendary vigilante the Black Hawk, a kind of Robin Hood or Zorro character. His number one objective is to rid the locality of corruption, and throughout he'll battle wits and swords with the evil deputy police chief Baron Le Camus, with the aim of finally ridding France in 1789 of the old regime. Jean-Pierre has to carefully conceal his alter ego whilst at the same time starting a fire to booststart the revolution. Jean-Pierre is a likeable guy, a noble fellow, and maybe just a tad too philanthropic. We're left in his company just after a heist has gone awry, leaving us empty-handed. So off we go to try to once more disrupt the regime. The exciting horse-riding, sword-waving intro quickly dissolves into many lines of dialogue explaining how the chief of police will hunt down the Black Hawk because he just doesn't like him. Jean-Pierre doesn't have much about him except he's nice, I guess you could say, and he has an agenda. That's his personality. He reminds me a bit of Carrie Elwes from The Princess Bride, as there is a touch of ridiculous to him, but just maybe not as funny. There are a plethora of characters to meet, but unfortunately none of them have any particular characteristic that makes them stand out. They're all cut from the same cloth. A few of the guards are fun, with some being really pompous and a few being aggressive jobsworths, but overall there isn't any development characteristically for anyone. They're all stiff and, for lack of a better word, a bit boring. Each character has their own colour for the dialogue text, and on occasion it becomes quite hard to read, sometimes blending into the background. And as it's a throwback to the 90s, none of it is voiced. Let me get to my biggest gripe and major problem with the game: the dialogue. I'll preface this by saying that it has been translated from the developer's native Spanish, and this may be the cause of some of the stilted dialogue. However, this doesn't account for the reams and reams of text we have to get through, even on the most basic conversations. A discussion that should be sorted in a sentence or two can go on for what feels like paragraphs. It needs some serious editing. At more than one point, the characters were saying stuff so nondescript and not relevant at all, I just clicked through over and over just to get to the end of the dialogue. There seemed to be a general idea that at this point it'll be fun to add a joke, only for them to go ahead and add a further 8, 9, 10 jokes and both lengthen the dialogue and exhaust me as a player. It got frustrating. To further this annoyance, there was a fair bit that was misspelt too. At one point, a word being completely missed from a sentence and instead the number 3 was in its place. In the intro, the dialogue moved at such a speed that I didn't even get a chance to read it, and yeah, I'm already behind. The devs needed to take scissors to the dialogue and cut a lot, and I mean a lot of it. Whilst we're on the point of the negative side of the game, I'll revert back to what I said at the start. It's a game made in the image of the 90s classics, and these 90s classics often had teeny tiny items, sometimes the size of a pixel. And here, the decision was to continue that. Some items were so small and nondescript you may find yourself pondering over the same scene for some time before you realise, yep, there's the item I need, this 2-pixel corkscrew. Many times in the game I used a walkthrough, and over half the times it was because I had yet to pick something up, as it was just too damn small. The pixel art though, from the characters and inventory items through to the locations, are really fun and great. A lot of the focus is on creating a meaningful and lived in place, and here it is a success. It definitely has captured that 90s feeling. The puzzles throughout the game can get very tricky, even from the start, and with no hint system, it was a case of sometimes trying everything on everything. There are some puzzles that simply require you to ask the same thing over and over again to the same person, but this was never obvious, and so added yet again to my frustration. And it was frustrating not just because it wasn't clear, but it just didn't make sense. There's also a fair bit of backtracking. At one point you have to get a woman hired in a bakery, so you ask the baker, he says yes. You go see the woman, she says great. You go see the baker, he gives us something else. You go see the woman, and it's back and forth, and it's all dialogue. All you do is go back and forth. There's literally no puzzle element to it except for ridiculous repeating. For the most part, the puzzles involving the inventory are clear with very little moon logic. But I do say very little. Sometimes there is, such as a Ferris wheel. There's literally no reason for this Ferris wheel. We have to go and do something else completely. Yet we really make a point of making sure we get on it. And it's not until you're at the top of the Ferris wheel that you realise why. Again, it just doesn't make sense. And unfortunately, I'm not going to stop there. There are a few more bugbears too. On occasion, there are action scenes where we have to sword fight or fist fight people. And once you die here, that's it, you're dead. Back to the last save game. There seems to be no finesse to the fighting sections, it's simply button bashing. I hate action scenes in adventure games, I really hate them, and these are some of the worst. The cherry on the cake though is that the ending of the game uses this mechanic, meaning that if you die here, there's a heck of a way to get back having to replay huge chunks. The music's themes throughout are really fun, and they do transform me back to when I had my Amiga 500 Plus in the 90s. The themes are heroic and subtle in equal measures. There's more than a touch of influence from Monkey Island games, especially the LeChuck theme. The game is split into 3 segments, and there is a welcome drastic change in section 3 as we play as a completely different character out of the blue. The mid-section involves discovering a sinister plot, is well played out and paced nicely with some brilliant landscape pixel art. The developer's true commitment to the 90s classics comes before the game even starts. There is a copy protection page where we need to physically look for the underlined word in a digital document provided to open the game. This was a super fun novelty at first, but after the 3rd, 4th and 5th time, it was a real pain in the backside, because if you get the word wrong, the game does just close and doesn't let you play. I get what the developers were doing, and I do commend them for making a 90s pixel art adventure, warts and all. But as someone who plays a lot of adventure games in modern days, there are certain things that are needed, and some older things that need to disappear. I'm reviewing this game in 2024, and thus I'm reviewing it as a new game, not a 90s classic. There are no hints, there's no hotspot finder, and there is no notepad. The save slots, although there are quite a few of them, they save the image of the screen you're on in a tiny way that makes it almost impossible to see which save game you want. There's next to no accessibility functions for things like text size, font, or the colour too. The Adventures of the Black Haw is not a bad game. In many ways, it's a good one, but the unwavering stipulation to stick so close to what we had in the 90s becomes its downfall. It's a flawed game, yet still has its charm. The dialogue is in need of some serious editing, the plot requires more explaining, and every character except Jean-Pierre needs more of a purpose. Every now and then it's a fun frolic through 18th century France, but a lot of the time it's a frustration. It gets a 6 out of 10 from me. Thank you to Croquetina Asesina Studios for the review copy, and thank you to you for watching. Be sure to watch some more of my adventure game videos right here, and come and join my Patreon for even more. Until next time, have a wonderful morning, afternoon or evening, whatever it is you're doing right now. Take care.